where it all began. In Captain America: Civil War, Spider-Man finally made his debut in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The film introduces Peter Parker as a teenager who has already been working as the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man in Queens, New York. Everything changes when Tony Stark unexpectedly shows up at the small apartment where Peter lives with his Aunt May. At that moment, the Avengers are divided over the Sokovia Accords, a treaty created after several battles caused massive destruction around the world. While Tony believes superheroes should answer to government oversight, Steve Rogers insists they should remain free to act on their own. Unable to win the conflict by himself, Stark decides to recruit new allies, and Peter ends up becoming part of the story. Before the mission, Tony gives the young hero a brand new suit, far more advanced than the homemade costume Peter had stitched together himself. The suit comes equipped with artificial intelligence, adjustable lenses, multiple combat modes, and countless other upgrades. The big showdown takes place at Leipzig Airport, where the two teams of heroes finally clash. Spider-Man immediately makes an unforgettable entrance by showing up and stealing Captain America's shield. Even surrounded by legends, Peter constantly proves how creative he is. He uses his webs to slow down his opponents and even manages to bring down Giant Man by remembering a scene from Star Wars, wrapping the giant's legs together with webs. Despite all his enthusiasm, Peter is ultimately defeated as Captain America escapes with the help of his teammates. After the mission, Tony takes Peter back home and allows him to keep the new suit, making it clear that he still isn't officially an Avenger.
Mr. Stark, wait! I'm not done, I'm not... Yeah, I'm not.
His first great villain. In Spider-Man: Homecoming, Peter Parker returns to his normal life after the events of Civil War. Even though he fought alongside the Avengers, he's still just a high school student trying to balance exams, homework, and his double life as Spider-Man. The problem is, after getting a taste of the superhero world, going back to stopping small-time criminals in Queens suddenly feels a lot less exciting. Peter spends his days waiting for a phone call from Tony Stark, convinced that joining the Avengers full-time could happen at any moment. Meanwhile, the film reveals how his newest enemy was born. It all begins shortly after the Battle of New York, as the wreckage left behind by the Chitauri invasion is being cleaned up. Adrian Toomes owns a company hired to handle the cleanup, but he loses the contract when the Department of Damage Control, created by Tony Stark in partnership with the government, takes over the entire operation. Furious after watching his business collapse overnight, Toomes secretly keeps some of the alien technology recovered from the wreckage. Instead of disposing of it, he and his crew begin building highly advanced weapons to sell on the black market. To carry out the robberies, Toomes creates a powerful flying suit, giving birth to the villain known as the Vulture. Peter crosses paths with the gang during what seems like a routine patrol. He stops an illegal weapons deal, but quickly realizes these weapons are far more dangerous than anything he's ever encountered on the streets. During one attempt to stop them, Peter is nearly drowned after Vulture knocks him into a lake. The one who rescues him is Tony Stark, who gives Peter a very clear warning. He's not ready to take on criminals like these by himself. Peter ignores the advice completely. He's so desperate to prove he deserves to be an Avenger that he starts making reckless decisions. His best friend, Ned Leeds, accidentally discovers that Peter is Spider-Man.
You're the Spider-Man.
And immediately becomes the guy in the chair, helping the hero through a computer whenever he can. Together, they unlock hidden features inside Tony's suit, revealing dozens of functions Peter never even knew existed. Their investigation eventually leads Peter to Washington, D.C., where his school's National Academic Decathlon is taking place. He tries to stop another robbery carried out by Toomes' crew, but ends up trapped inside a storage facility, completely missing the competition. As if that weren't enough, one of the alien power cells removed from a weapon becomes dangerously unstable inside the Washington Monument. When the energy starts to collapse, several of Peter's classmates become trapped inside an elevator. Spider-Man races against time and manages to save everyone, including Liz Allen, the girl he's secretly in love with. Even after the rescue, Peter continues investigating on his own and discovers that the gang's next major robbery will happen during a deal aboard the Staten Island ferry. The operation quickly spirals out of control when one of the alien weapons slices the ferry almost completely in half. Peter does everything he can to stop hundreds of passengers from falling into the water, using his webs to hold both halves of the ferry together. The sequence became one of the film's most iconic moments, and serves as a direct tribute to Spider-Man 2. In the end, it's Tony Stark who actually saves the day. After that disaster, Tony completely loses faith in Peter. He reveals that the entire operation had already been under FBI surveillance, and Peter's interference put countless innocent lives at risk. As punishment, Stark takes the suit back. Peter argues that he's nothing without it, only to receive the line that perfectly sums up the entire movie.
This is all I have. I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it, okay? God, I sound like my dad.
Without all the advanced technology, Peter tries to return to a normal life. He asks Liz to the school dance, and for a brief moment, it feels like everything is finally going his way. But the film saves its biggest twist for that exact moment. When Peter arrives at Liz's house, he discovers that her father is Adrian Toomes. During the drive to the dance, Toomes puts the pieces together and realizes Peter is Spider-Man. Before dropping him off, he gives Peter a direct warning. If he keeps interfering with his business, his entire family will pay the price.
Ever interfere with my business again? Because if you do, I'll kill you and everybody you love.
Of course, Peter abandons the dance almost immediately. Wearing his old homemade suit, he resumes his hunt for Toomes, while Ned helps from a distance. First, he defeats the new Shocker. Then he tracks down Vulture's hideout, only to be buried beneath the rubble of a collapsing building. This moment is another famous callback to the comics, especially the classic storyline, "If this be my destiny."
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
Alone, injured, and with nobody there to save him, Peter somehow finds the strength to lift tons of concrete off himself. During the final battle, Spider-Man prevents Toomes from stealing an airplane loaded with Avengers technology. The fight ends on a beach at Coney Island, where Vulture's suit malfunctions and explodes. Even after everything Toomes has done, Peter still chooses to save his life instead of letting him die. That decision perfectly defines who Spider-Man truly is. Someone who fights to stop crime, not to take lives. With Toomes arrested, Liz leaves New York with her mother, ending any chance of a relationship between her and Peter. Impressed by Peter's maturity, Tony Stark officially offers him a place among the Avengers. To everyone's surprise, Peter turns him down. He realizes he still has a lot to learn and decides to remain nothing more than the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. As a reward, Tony gives him the suit back. But when Peter finally puts it on again inside his bedroom,
What the f?
Thanos' snap? In Avengers Infinity War, Peter Parker finds himself caught in the biggest conflict in the history of the Avengers. It all begins when a gigantic alien spaceship appears above New York. Peter is riding a school bus when he notices the chaos outside. Without thinking twice, he puts on his suit and rushes to help Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, and Doctor Strange as they battle Thanos' children. During the fight, one of the villains escapes with Doctor Strange aboard the spaceship. Peter secretly climbs onto the ship to stop the kidnapping, but ends up going much farther than he ever intended, becoming stranded in outer space. Since his regular suit can't survive at that altitude, Tony activates the Iron Spider suit for the very first time. Along with life support systems, the armor features retractable mechanical legs and countless upgrades that transform the young hero into a true combat machine. The ship heads toward Titan, where Peter joins Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, and shortly afterward, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Even though he's the youngest member of the group, Peter plays a major role in the plan to defeat Thanos. In fact, one of the battle's smartest ideas comes from him. Inspired by a scene from Aliens, Peter suggests combining everyone's abilities to immobilize Thanos and pull the Infinity Gauntlet off his hand. For a few brief moments, the plan actually works. The problem is that Peter Quill loses control after learning that Thanos killed Gamora. Driven by rage, he attacks the Titan, ruining the entire strategy just seconds before the gauntlet could be removed. After their defeat on Titan, Thanos gathers all 6 Infinity Stones and finally snaps his fingers.
You should have gone for the head.
Half of all life in the universe disappears in a matter of seconds. Peter immediately starts feeling the effects. Terrified, he realizes something is wrong and rushes toward Tony Stark, begging him that he doesn't want to go.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Sir, please. Please, sir.
Just moments later, he disappears in Tony's arms, leaving his mentor completely devastated and bringing Peter's story to a heartbreaking end. The Return. In Avengers Endgame, Peter Parker spends most of the story absent. For 5 years, half the population of the universe simply ceases to exist, while the surviving heroes search for a way to undo the tragedy. Spider-Man doesn't return until the final battle. After the Avengers successfully recover all 6 Infinity Stones through time travel, Bruce Banner uses the Infinity Gauntlet to bring everyone back. At the same time, an alternate version of Thanos invades Earth, beginning an enormous battle against the Avengers. That's when Doctor Strange opens dozens of portals across the battlefield, allowing every resurrected hero to return. Among them is Peter Parker. He arrives wearing the Iron Spider suit and reunites with Tony Stark, as though only a few minutes had passed. The moment he joins the battle, Peter receives an important mission. Once Scott Lang's van arrives with the equipment needed to return the Infinity Stones to their proper timelines, someone has to carry the Infinity Gauntlet across the battlefield. Peter volunteers immediately, attempting to reach the van while fighting his way through Thanos' army. Before long, he's surrounded by enemies, but receives help from countless heroes. One of the film's most memorable moments comes when Captain Marvel destroys Thanos' warship. clearing a path for Peter to continue forward. Despite everyone's efforts, Thanos manages to recover the gauntlet during the battle's final moments. Just when all hope seems lost, Tony Stark performs his greatest act of heroism. He steals the Infinity Stones from Thanos and snaps his fingers. Erasing Thanos and his entire army, but the immense power of the stones proves fatal. After the battle, Peter attends Tony Stark's funeral alongside Pepper Potts, Happy Hogan, and the rest of the Avengers. The moment brings the mentor and student relationship that began in Civil War to its emotional conclusion.
You can rest now.
Taking responsibility. In Spider-Man Far From Home, the story begins shortly after the events of Endgame. The entire world is still trying to adjust to the blip, the name given to the return of everyone who disappeared for 5 years because of Thanos. Since Peter Parker was one of the victims of the snap, he returns at exactly the same age, while some of the people around him have naturally grown older. But the greatest burden he's carrying has nothing to do with that. Peter is still trying to cope with Tony Stark's death. His school organizes a 2-week trip across Europe, and Peter sees it as the perfect opportunity to put his life as a superhero on hold for a while. His only plan is to spend more time with MJ and finally tell her he's in love with her. But as is almost always the case with Spider-Man, those plans are completely derailed when a gigantic water monster appears and begins destroying part of Venice. During the attack, a new hero named Quentin Beck shows up. He defeats the creature in front of everyone and quickly earns the public's trust. Shortly afterward, Nick Fury approaches Peter and explains that Beck came from another universe within the multiverse. According to his story, 4 beings known as the Elementals destroyed his world and are now attacking the MCU's Earth. Today, that explanation sounds completely normal because of the movies that followed. But back in 2019, simply mentioning the multiverse drove Marvel fans absolutely crazy. Even so, Peter doesn't want to be part of the mission. After everything he went through with Thanos, all he wants is to spend a few days being a normal teenager. Fury, however, practically forces the class to continue their trip to Prague, which just so happens to be where the next elemental is expected to appear. With little choice, Peter ends up helping Beck during the attack of the so-called Fire Elemental. After the battle, Quentin is hailed as Earth's newest great hero. That's when Peter makes one of the biggest mistakes of his life. Tony Stark had left him a very special gift, the Edith Glasses, a system capable of controlling an enormous network of satellites, armed drones, and virtually all of Stark Industries' technology. Peter believes he's not ready for that kind of responsibility and decides to hand control over to Quentin Beck, convinced he's found someone far more experienced, but the whole thing is nothing more than a massive lie. As soon as Peter leaves, Quentin celebrates alongside an entire team of former Stark Industries employees. It's revealed that Beck never came from another universe and never had any superpowers. In reality, he was a holographic technology specialist who worked for Tony Stark before being fired because of his unstable behavior. The entire Elemental story was created using drones equipped with incredibly advanced hologram projectors capable of producing massive illusions. The plan was brilliant: create a worldwide threat, defeat it in front of everyone, and become the world's greatest hero. Meanwhile, Peter finally works up the courage to get closer to MJ, but she completely catches him off guard by revealing that she already knows he's Spider-Man.
MJ,
I'm Spider-Man.
What?
That's what you were gonna say, that you're Spider-Man.
No, I'm not Spider-Man.
I mean, I've been watching you for like a while now. It's kind of obvious.
Her proof is a small device she found during the battle in Prague. The object is actually one of Beck's hologram projectors. The moment Peter realizes that, he immediately understands he's been tricked. Desperate, he travels to Berlin to warn Nick Fury, but Beck was already expecting him. Using his holograms, he creates a series of illusions so realistic that Peter completely loses his sense of reality. Within minutes, Spider-Man believes he's talking to Fury, sees zombie versions of Iron Man, faces completely impossible scenarios, and accidentally reveals that MJ, Ned, and his friends know the truth about Mysterio. It's one of the MCU's most creative sequences and perfectly recreates the confusion Mysterio has always caused in the comics. At the end of the trap, Beck causes Peter to be hit by a train. Badly injured, Peter wakes up alone in the Netherlands. With no way to get home, he manages to contact Happy Hogan, who immediately flies out to rescue him. During the flight to London, Happy reminds Peter how much Tony Stark believed in him. The conversation helps Peter regain his confidence and becomes an emotional turning point because he finally accepts that he'll never be the next Iron Man. He just needs to be Spider-Man. Meanwhile, Beck prepares his ultimate illusion in London. By combining all of the elementals into one gigantic attack, he plans to put on the greatest spectacle of his career and eliminate all of Peter's classmates in the process. During the final battle, Peter stops relying on technology and instead puts his complete trust in his spider sense. Ignoring all the illusions surrounding him, he fights his way through the swarm of drones using nothing but his instincts. After regaining control of Edith, Peter successfully shuts down the drones. Beck tries to fool him one last time with another illusion, but Peter sees through the trick before it's too late. During the confrontation, Quentin is struck by the fire of one of his own drones and dies. With the mission complete, Peter and MJ finally begin their relationship, and everything seems to end on the best possible note. But the post-credit scene completely changes the direction of the franchise. Before dying, Beck leaves behind a manipulated video that makes it appear as though Spider-Man was responsible for both the London attack and Beck's death.
Are you sure you want to commence the drone attack? There will be significant casualties.
Do it! Execute them all!
The footage is handed over to J. Jonah Jameson, who broadcasts Spider-Man's secret identity to the entire world.
Spider-Man's name is Peter Parker! What the
The true multiverse. In Spider-Man No Way Home, Peter Parker wakes up to find his life completely turned upside down. Quentin Beck manipulated a video that convinced the entire world Spider-Man was a murderer.
There will be significant casualties.
Do it! Execute them all!
And, even worse, revealed that Peter Parker was the man behind the mask. Overnight, Peter goes from being an ordinary high school student to becoming the most famous person on the planet. Reporters surround his home, protesters fill the streets, and even his classmates begin treating him differently. The Department of Damage Control brings Peter, MJ, Ned Leeds, and Aunt May in for questioning. Although all charges are eventually dropped thanks to attorney Matt Murdock, Peter's reputation remains completely destroyed. The biggest consequences fall on his friends. Because of all the controversy surrounding Spider-Man, MJ and Ned both have their MIT applications rejected. Feeling responsible for ruining the lives of the people he loves most, Peter decides to seek out someone capable of solving an impossible problem. That person is Doctor Strange. Peter asks Strange to make the entire world forget his secret identity. Surprisingly, Strange agrees, but during the spell, Peter keeps asking for changes. He wants Aunt May to remember, then he remembers Ned, then MJ, and even Happy Hogan. Each new request destabilizes the spell further until Strange is forced to stop it before a complete catastrophe occurs. But it was already too late. The spell opens small rifts between different universes and begins pulling into the MCU. Anyone who knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man. The first to appear is Dr. Octopus, once again played by Alfred Molina. Soon afterward come Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin portrayed by Willem Dafoe, followed by Electro, Sandman, and the Lizard. For fans of the previous Spider-Man franchises, seeing all these villains sharing the same movie felt almost impossible just a few years earlier. Doctor Strange explains that every one of them was pulled from their universe shortly before their deaths. His plan is simple: capture them and send them back immediately to restore the balance of the multiverse. Peter, however, sees things differently. After learning that several of them would return to the exact moments of their deaths, he believes there's a better solution. Instead of condemning them, he decides to try curing them. It's a decision heavily influenced by Aunt May's belief that if someone can be saved, they deserve that chance. Doctor Strange considers the idea far too dangerous and tries to stop Peter. The two end up battling inside the mirror dimension, where Peter uses his intelligence and mathematical knowledge to outsmart Strange without relying on brute force. Afterward, he traps the sorcerer inside the mirror dimension and takes the villains to Happy Hogan's apartment to begin developing cures for each of them. The first treatment works perfectly. Peter restores Otto Octavius' control over his mechanical arms. For the first time in years, Otto finally becomes himself again. But everything changes when the Green Goblin personality takes control of Norman Osborn once more. Manipulating the other villains, Goblin starts a massive battle inside the building. Electro, Sandman, and the Lizard escape. Goblin stays behind to fight Peter. The fight between the two is one of the most intense in the entire trilogy. Without cracking jokes or hiding his anger, Peter attacks Goblin with everything he's got. In the middle of the chaos, Aunt May is critically injured. Before dying, she manages to say the words that define Spider-Man's entire legacy.
You have a gift. You have power. And with great power, there must also come great responsibility.
This is the loss that finally transforms Peter into the Spider-Man fans know from the comics. Not knowing where Peter has gone, Ned uses Doctor Strange's sling ring to open a portal to find his friend. But instead, another Peter Parker steps through. A few moments later, another one appears. They are the Spider-Men played by Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, now officially part of the MCU. The meeting between the three Peter Parkers quickly becomes the emotional heart of the film. Instead of serving as simple nostalgia, they share their pain and reveal that they've all experienced similar losses. Toby talks about Uncle Ben. Andrew remembers Gwen Stacy's death and admits he never truly recovered from it. Together, they help Tom Holland's Peter avoid following the path of revenge.
She told me that with great power comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben said it the day he died.
The three Spider-Men then begin creating cures for the remaining villains. The final battle takes place at the Statue of Liberty, which is undergoing renovations to receive Captain America's massive shield. As they fight Electro, Sandman, and the Lizard, each Spider-Man uses his own unique fighting style, creating countless references to their previous franchises. One of the film's most emotional moments comes when Andrew Garfield saves MJ after she falls. The scene serves as a form of redemption, since he was unable to save Gwen Stacy in his own universe. With Otto Octavius' help, all of the villains are eventually cured. But before disappearing, the Green Goblin destroys Doctor Strange's magical containment box holding the original spell. Immediately, enormous cracks begin spreading across the sky. Thousands of people from other universes who know Spider-Man's identity start crossing into the MCU. Doctor Strange tries to contain the fractures, but realizes he won't be able to hold them much longer. That's when Peter makes the hardest decision of his entire life. He asks Strange to cast one final spell, this time not to make the world forget Spider-Man, but to erase Peter Parker completely from everyone's memory. That way, no one would remember who he was, preventing the multiverse from continuing to collapse. The plan works. All of the visitors return to their respective universes, including the other two Spider-Men and every villain. Even Eddie Brock, the Sony universe's Venom, is sent back, although a tiny fragment of the symbiote remains behind in the MCU, setting up a possible future story. A few weeks later, Peter tries to reunite with MJ and Ned to keep his promise of telling them the truth again. However, after seeing that they are finally living peaceful lives, he decides against it. For the first time since becoming Spider-Man, Peter chooses to sacrifice his own happiness to protect the people he loves. After visiting Aunt May's grave and briefly speaking with Happy Hogan, who no longer remembers him either, Peter rents a small apartment, sews himself a brand new suit, and returns to protecting the streets of New York. It's an ending that closely resembles the classic Spider-Man comics. No Tony Stark technology, no Avengers, and no one left to help him, just Peter Parker, and the responsibility of continuing to be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And we'll see the consequences of that very soon in Spider-Man: Brand New Day. On screen is a video where we show every time Spider-Man's identity was revealed in the movies. Click and check it out. I'll see you there.